I'm Stephen Foskett, publisher of Gestalt IT and founder of Tech Field Day. And we are here at KubeCon North America 2022 talking to some of our favorite companies. If you have watched much Tech Field Day content in the last couple of years, you've seen a little bit with Fortinet. And so I'm glad to be here with Ali Bidabadi from Fortinet talking about the relevance of Fortinet for the KubeCon crowd.
Good to be here with you, Stephen.
So if I'm a attendee at KubeCon, if I'm in the DevOps world, if I'm working on DevSecOps in particular, I may be aware of Fortinet, but I may not. What is basically the pitch of Fortinet for a dev crowd?
Great question. We really acknowledge the fact that security for software development lifecycle needs to be comprehensive. It needs to cover the entire CI/CD pipeline, from the time that developers start writing code until they checking their code into common repositories like GitHub or anything like that, and also further towards right side of the CI/CD pipeline, where they need to build that into a container image and then also deploy that into orchestration and runtime environments. Really, a comprehensive security for CI/CD needs to be covering all of these. So I think that's a key message that Fortinet wants to convey, and we have strong solutions in that area. We absolutely cover the entire CI/CD pipeline. What I mentioned really is about very beginning of the pipeline when application developers are writing codes until those codes start running in the runtime environments.
Yeah. And I think that that may come as a surprise to people, because I know that a lot of people are very familiar with Fortinet in the operations and network security world. I know people have been exposed to all sorts of Fortinet products, but they may be surprised to learn that the company extends all the way into the CI/CD pipeline and all the way back to developers. And I think that's very powerful, because I think, at least from my perspective, you can't really secure an environment just by having firewalls, for example. What if there's an exploit in one of the images you're using in one of your containers? What if there's a problem with your code? What if there's an operational error in the way that you're deploying things, in the way that you are configuring the environment? All of those come into play in order to create a secure environment. And what I'm hearing is that Fortinet has a product or an approach to each of those. Is that right?
Absolutely. In fact, for each stage of the CI/CD pipeline, we have a product that solves that problem, that helps customers alleviate their pain points. We have FortiDevSec, which focuses on application security testing. I think that's really a key aspect of any comprehensive CI/CD security solution. So basically, that itself comes down to things like SAST, which is static application security testing, or it could be dynamic application security testing. Also, things like software composition analysis, another scanning mechanism to make sure that we cover not just the application source code, but also any third-party libraries and packages. That's very important to have full coverage. And we call this prevention first strategy. The earlier in the pipeline that you basically try to catch these vulnerabilities, the more effective. So look at, as an example, Log4j. If really we detect the Log4j vulnerability early in the pipeline, right when the customer application owner is really trying to import a Log4j library, that would help, absolutely would help them. So no need to really worry about it runtime. Of course, runtime, you always need to deploy similar solutions, but it's all about the earlier in the pipeline you catch these vulnerabilities, the more effective. And one thing I want to add here is, yes, best of breed solution is important, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that any cybersecurity solution is integrated, which means I want to go back to a Gartner position here, which more recently they have acknowledged and recognized the need for an integrated approach to cybersecurity. We have seen that they actually talk about cybersecurity mesh architecture. In fact, Gartner has shared a Fortinet belief, which is a comprehensive and effective cybersecurity solutions needs to be distributed, it needs to be integrated, and it needs to be collaborative. And I'm happy to talk more about that.
Well, and I completely agree with you. And I think that most people who would be watching this, whether they're IT or cloud architects or in the DevOps world, would agree that you can't just have it's not down to one person. It's not down to one location. It requires making sure that it's touching every point in the entire CI/CD pipeline, every point in the process, every point in operations. Also, I think that many would agree that it's important to try to bring in sort of best of breed knowledge of the industry and knowledge of vulnerabilities and so on. And that's another thing I think that may be powerful here about the solution is that Fortinet is actually bringing in awareness of vulnerabilities that developers may not be, they may not know, they may not be aware of.
Exactly. That's a great point. And I want to emphasize the fact that when we talk about integrated security and collaborative, composable, and distributed solution, it really means continuously leveraging the intelligence that different components of your overall solution can share. Otherwise, you won't have the visibility that needed. Otherwise, it would not be having a effective and also a solution that can really be responding to any threats in a very dynamic and definitely fast fashion. So I think those are all key aspects of what we have done at Fortinet. We continue to talk about, again, regardless of at what stage of the CI/CD pipeline, we want to make sure that collaborative and intelligence sharing is always there. As I mentioned, without that, we really cannot offer customers what they deserve, which is an effective security solution.
So we started with DevSec. What comes next?
Good question. So basically, if you look at the entire CI/CD pipeline, often we divide into three major stages. One is the actual development stage, and then we talk about build and deploy stage. So in the build and deploy or build/deploy, most of what the CI/CD pipeline tools or CI/CD tools like Jenkins, as an example, or some of the cloud native tools do is helping customers build the applications into a container image, as an example. It is very important to make sure that application owner can influence build decision. It should not be that automatically, regardless of the type of vulnerabilities that have been found in an image or in a library or in a source code, they go and they proceed with building an application. That is building a container image. That is not ideal. That is not effective. We want to make sure that they can influence a policy. As an example, if we find more than 5 or 10 or X number of vulnerabilities in a source code, we should not probably proceed to the stage of building that into a container image. And then also there are things about static checks of your runtime environment. We talk about, this is KubeCon. Kubernetes is a de facto container orchestration platform. So we want to make sure that the hygiene of environment is there without doing checks against some of the best practices of the industry, like, as an example, CIS benchmarks for Kubernetes. We cannot really give that assurances to our customers. That's the other important part of what we do during the build and deploy stage. And then last but not least is during runtime. That's where customers want to deploy their applications in runtime. And once they deploy it, the application will be running. Who can and how they can protect it. This is where Fortinet also has a very strong suite of solutions. We actually have FortiAD CVM that can help customers protect against OWASP top 10 attacks, as an example. It is very effective solutions. It's also running in a Kubernetes native fashion. The other product that we have is, most people have heard about our FortiGate VM, but maybe some people don't know that the FortiGate VM can offer the full context of the applications and where the applications are running. They can help the customers with that context. So if it's running in the Kubernetes environment, we have the notion of a connector that actually can fetch tags and metadata, which then security admins and network admins can use when they define security policies. So with that context-rich information and objects, they can define those policies. They can, in fact, define a very granular security control for the applications that are running in Kubernetes platform.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are more familiar with FortiGate and maybe don't know FortiADC, but I think a lot of people do know about ADCs, and they realize that that's a very powerful tool to use when you're deploying applications. But how are all these products integrated from sort of bottom to top? I guess, are these point products, or are there points of integration between them?
These are absolutely point of integration. So as I mentioned, we have a concept of Fortinet Security Fabric, which, by the way, we implemented this about a decade ago, way before anyone, even Gartner in the industry, talked about those concepts. So we implemented about over a decade ago, Fortinet Security Fabric, which essentially is about how different components of the fabric can collaborate, can work together, can share intelligence, and won't really be just point products. And that applies not just in the cloud, even on-prem, hybrid environment, multi-cloud environments. It is important for our audience to know that we have been looking at it always as a hybrid environment because we do believe that the hybrid world is going to stay. Some people like to deploy entire applications in cloud, but some people like to do it, in a hybrid fashion. We have also edge computing. What is important is ultimately the solution that helps from a single pane of glass of management to help customers manage policies across all these platforms, regardless of the form factor and regardless of the location of where their applications are located.
So what's the, I guess, the acquisition model for these things? Are they bundled together? Is this something where different groups, different people within the organization are going to be coming to Fortinet separately? Or is this something where an organization will strategically work with Fortinet to bring all of these products to market?
Good, very good question. In fact, we also have a cloud consulting team at Fortinet that help customers from a very vendor agnostic, best practice based type of design architecture, help organizations understand where they are today from a security posture standpoint, help them remediate those gaps by recommending certain technologies. And if a customer is interested in using our technology, obviously and absolutely we'll be happy to help them. But I think we always like to take that step back and help customers understand how overall from a security standpoint they're doing in their application journey to cloud, if it's a cloud migration, if it's not, if it's again about hybrid environment, in Kubernetes, in virtualized, or even data centers. Regardless of that, you want to make sure that we can help them assess their existing posture and any gaps that they have in their environments, we can make those recommendations so they can enhance and ultimately remediate those gaps. So that consultancy approach is really what we think is missing in industry, and Fortinet has taken a step in that direction to help customers from, again, a vendor agnostic standpoint, help solve some of those problems.
Yeah, and I think that that's important because, frankly, a lot of enterprises are pretty befuddled by the shift from on-premises traditional computing to the cloud and to cloud native. And I think a lot of these companies are already familiar with Fortinet for their on-prem protection and may feel comfortable going to a company like yours to try to help them get to the cloud. That's one of the themes here at KubeCon, definitely, is how can enterprises move from more of a traditional IT perspective to a more of a DevOps perspective to a real cloud native way of deploying applications. And I'm seeing a lot of companies like yours that are trying to help companies along that path as sort of a trusted partner for them. I think that that's a really valuable way to approach it. So this is really interesting. If people want to learn more about these products, where should they go? How can they connect with you?
I would highlight two URLs. One is fortinet.com/cloud, which our customers can find a ton of information about our products and solutions. But the other link that I would like to share is fortinet.com/consulting. That's where our customers can engage us from really a vendor agnostic standpoint. Again, we help them. It's a service with the offer, but it's completely vendor agnostic. As I said, there are customers who don't know how their overall security posture is today. They need help regardless of what stage of their CI/CD pipeline they're more focused on, or they feel that needs more protection. We actually can assess that for them. We can help provide high level and low level a roadmap of security for their CI/CD pipeline and for entire cloud and hybrid cloud environment.
That's great. Also, I'll just make a quick pitch here. Fortinet has presented at our Tech Field Day events many times with various products in the portfolio. So if you use your favorite search engine, search for Fortinet and Field Day, you'll find some technical deep dive presentations with people like me asking questions, seeing a demo, working through it, trying to learn more about how each of these products works. And if you keep an eye out for the Tech Field Day events in 2023, I know that you'll see Fortinet at some of those as well, and you can see deep dives into more of these products. So thank you very much for joining us for these videos from KubeCon. Again, I'm Stephen Foskett, organizer of Tech Field Day and publisher of Gestalt IT, and we are thrilled to have companies like Fortinet presenting here at KubeCon.